Hi, everybody. Brian Professor B. Davis here at the Pete's Coffee here in San Francisco, as as we continue on Niners Radio 49, as we are we're going to give you a very short, condensed podcast tonight before we send you off to watch the Monday night or the NFC Wild Card playoff game, the final game, the wrap up of the Wild Card weekend, as it will be the Rams taking on the Minnesota Vikings down at Glendale, Arizona, at State Farm Stadium down in Glendale due to what happened to the fires down in Southern California. On behalf of the Niners Radio 49 and the 49ers organization and the National Football League, our thoughts and prayers go out to the people of the victims of that horrendous fire that hit Southern California last week. If you want to donate, go to redcross.org/NFL if you want to help donate. So we're going to have this. It's going to be a very short, condensed podcast before we head you off to the NFC wildcard game. A lot of Niner fans out there. We're just going to give you a brief look at the news going on early in the day. The Niners completing their interview. Chris Banjo for the interview for one of the multiple positions for defensive coordinator and for special teams. So this is going to be a very short show. This was So if you want to check us out on youtube.com/@NinersRadio49, youtube.com/@NinersRadio49. So now coming up in our segment, we're going to take a look back at our Niners Radio 49 flashback and look back at the career of Gene Washington. We'll be doing these every day. We're going to take a look back of Gene Washington's career with the 49ers. He played for got drafted in the first round out of Stanford, 16th pick overall. Played for the Niners from 1969 through 1977. Played his final season in the league in 1979 with the Detroit Lions. Four-time Pro Bowler from 69 to 72. Three-time first-team All-Pro, 69, 70, and 72. He was the NFL received yards leader back in 1970 and touchdown leader in 1972. Third-team 67 and in 68. His career, 385 yards, receptions, 6,856 receiving yards, and 60 touchdowns. So in our segment, we're going to take a look back at the career of Niners who played there through some of the lean years. Played there through some of the lean years and and take a look back at his career. Professor B for Niners Radio 49. Niners Radio Flashback segment begins right now.
When the 49ers selected Gene Washington in the first round of the 1968 draft, they were getting much more than a polished receiver. They were getting a player with a unique insight to the game.
I played quarterback through my junior year at Stanford. So when I made the switch from quarterback to receiver, as a receiver, I thought the way a quarterback thought. So oftentimes a receiver will say to a quarterback, I can get open. But the quarterback can't see the receiver in that particular situation. You might think you're open, but from my vantage point as a quarterback, you're not open. So I always thought along the lines of a quarterback, trying to get myself in situations where not only did I feel that I could maneuver, but the quarterback could see it.
He knew my problems, and he knew how much time he had. He had a little clock in his head, and he took as much as he could, but he didn't take any more. And he knew if I was in trouble, he'd be looking.
But see, now he's coming over to take you. That's why I've got that other side out there pretty good shape.
Who's coming over?
The free safety. He's got to be behind you. You're his man whenever they go with a 48 EG. You're his man. You're Mel's man. You're saying he can't get you, huh? Huh?
Quarterbacks, they rely on that. They can't wait to see you get open and throw the ball. It's too late. But a lot of receivers don't think about that. All they think about is just their little immediate area. Well, I'm here, the defensive back here, I'm open. There's a lot more to it than that.
Washington's remarkable ability to elude defenders was in large part due to his regimented body language downfield. It was Gene's consistent, rudimentary style of play that allowed 49er quarterbacks to anticipate his every move, getting the ball into his hands.
Washington was slippery. He was hard to jam. He was a fluid receiver. He'd be on you before you knew it.
Gene was a great receiver. His biggest strength, I think, was running with the ball once he'd catch it. He was almost like a running back in open field. if the ball was anywhere near him, he was going to get it.
Selected an All-Pro and for the Pro Bowl in his first 4 years in the NFL, Washington helped lead San Francisco to Western Division titles in 1970, 71, and 72. In addition, Washington led the 49ers in receiving 6 of his 10 years in the NFL and retired as the club's all-time leading receiver. Washington's approach to football served notice to opponents that a little knowledge can be a dangerous thing. San Francisco had never won a title until the 3 consecutive division crowns the 49ers achieved following the arrival of Washington. Unlike the progression of many great athletes, Washington began his career at its pinnacle, only to see his team spiral out of contention. And while the 49ers were relying on gadget plays to survive, it was the sure hands of Washington that made the plays work.
I was at the top of my game when the 49ers as a team were at the worst. And it was very disheartening. But if a team double covers you, there's not much you can do if your team can't take advantage of other receivers and play calls and so forth and so on.
Despite the 49ers' plummet from championship to cellar, Washington continued to perform as a true professional. In a 49er history rich in receivers, Gene Washington surely ranks among San Francisco's greatest.
All right, that's some great, memorable memories of Gene Washington. Great memories of Gene Washington, who, during the early 70s, who gave the 49er faithful something to cheer about. Helped the Niners win 3 straight NFC West titles from 1970, 71, and 72. They lose to the Dallas Cowboys all 3 times in the postseason. Of course, they lost in their first divisional championship season of 1970. They lose to the Cowboys out at Kezar Stadium, which would be the final game ever at Kezar Stadium before losing 17-10 to the Dallas Cowboys before heading out west, or headed down to the southeast sector of town to Candlestick Park in 1971. They won another division. They won the division title again in 71. They would lose to the Cowboys again for the second year in a row in the NFC Championship game at Texas Stadium, which, by the way, that was the first year that Texas Stadium opened for business for the Cowboys in 1971. Dallas would go on to beat the Niners in the NFC Championship game, and they would go on to win the franchise's first ever Super Bowl 2 weeks later with a win over the Miami Dolphins down at Super Bowl 6 in New Orleans. Then, in 1972, the Niners won their 3rd straight division title. They would end up, they had that big lead late in the 4th quarter. With 2 minutes left, Roger Staubach performed this miracle comeback, and the Cowboys end up as the Cowboys would end up coming from behind to win that game. And the loss was devastating for the 49ers because the Niners would really never recover from that defeat. After that, they would go into the tank the rest of the decade. Over the next several years, some of their veteran players' retirement, father time came. John Brady would retire, and then Gene Washington sticked on until 1977. And he had a lot of the original franchise receiving records before both Dwight Clark and Jerry Rice would rewrite the record books, receptions, touchdowns, etc., etc., etc. So we're getting ready to send you out to Monday Night Football, or the final game of the wild card weekend wraparound. Let's give you just a recap of what happened over the weekend. It was the Texans over the Chargers in the first game, and then the second game it was the Ravens over the Steelers in Baltimore. The Texans will now play the Kansas City Chiefs this Saturday, and then the Commanders with their thrilling win last night over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Former 49er Zane Gonzalez hit a game-winning field goal as time expires. They will be headed to Motown to take on the Detroit Lions for the divisional playoff. That will be at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern on Fox this Saturday night. So it's a short week for the Commanders. They'll take on the Detroit Lions. The last time that these two teams hooked up in the postseason was way back in the 1991 NFC Championship game in the nation's capital in Washington. And then for the Commanders, for the franchise, their first playoff win since 2005, nearly 2 decades ago. And then late games, Baltimore Ravens will take on the Buffalo Bills. That's a 3:30 game on CBS. The early game will be, the early game on NBC. That'll be streaming on NBC and on Peacock. Will be the winner of tonight's game. The winner of tonight's Rams-Vikings game would head to Philadelphia for the divisional playoffs next Sunday. And that'll be 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock. And then that would be 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And then the late game and you can catch it on NBC Sports and streaming live on Peacock. And then the late game, Baltimore at Buffalo, 3:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, or 3:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern on CBS. You can catch that game on CBS and on the streaming app Paramount Plus. And that's going to do it for now. Brian Professor B. Davis, thank you for listening and watching 49ers Live on Niners Radio 49. I'd like to thank all you for tuning in today for all the Niners highlights and so much more. I'd like to thank all you faithful. We still continue to do this regardless of the season. We are going to continue to give you Niners Radio 49 update. And please don't forget, please go to youtube.com/@Niners Radio 49. Please don't forget to click the subscribe button. Our goal is trying to get 1,000 subscribers, and we're already at 199. We're just one away from getting that 200th milestone. We'll be doing this, even though the 49ers are not playing or out of it this year, we are still going to give you latest Niners news and special features throughout the entire offseason. We'll give you daily updates and so much more. We're already close to 350 videos, so we are keeping on grinding and keep on this thing after no breaks. So once again, check us out at youtube.com/@Niners Radio 49 and check us out on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Niners Radio 49. That's it for now. Brian Professor B. Davis, and hope you enjoy the rest of tonight's playoff game between the Rams and the Vikings. Winner of that game heads to the city of brotherly love to take on the Philadelphia Eagles next Sunday in Philadelphia. For now, Brian Professor B. Davis signing off. You've been watching 49ers Live here at Pete's Coffee on Niners Radio 49. Wishing you all a very, very pleasant good evening. Take care, everybody.